Thanks, Chris. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And I have started a new series called Meet Success Buddies, where I will be inviting guests who are highly successful in diverse area of life. Today, we have a special guest who does not need any introduction. He's an American citizen who has worked in 21 countries, especially in Asia, Africa. He is an author, a public speaker, and an awesome human being I know that works relentlessly towards the cause that matters most to him, like poverty, hunger, health and sanitation, nutrition. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Chris. Chris, welcome to our show. I'm
Thank you,
excited to
Ajay.
have you here
Hello,
today.
others.
How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
All right. So I read your book, first chapter from your book, where you have mentioned about your experiences of working in Africa, Asian countries, right? So I will go back a little bit and then I have a couple of things for you. So though I have read the book, but for the people who has not read your book and who does not know you, especially my audience, can you just go back in time, right, and talk about how you grew up, and what kind of challenges you had when you were growing up, when you were growing up in Georgia, what kind of challenges you had? That will really help us in getting insight.
Good, thank you. In Georgia, I belong to a religious minority.
Hmm.
So my religion was, I understand, 0.1% of the population. I lived in a small Georgia community. It only had 15,000 people during the time I lived there. I wasn't originally from there. I was born in another city, a city called Savannah. And in the community I moved to, the tradition was you respect people from the community, you respect people from your religion, you respect people who your parents and your great grandparents and your great grandparents have known forever. And I was not one of those people. So I grew up on the edge of a swamp like area at the edge of the community, and I lived near the railroad tracks and just south of the railroad tracks. There was another community called Whitesville, and the people in that community were all black. And in my part of the US,
Hmm.
living, if you were black, you basically could never make more than the minimum income. And so my part of the community had paved roads, had piped water systems, had electrical systems, had sanitation systems. We had green lawns, we had trees in our lawns. And just across the railroad track, they had none of that. Their roads were dirt roads. They had holes in the roads. They lived in small houses. They had very small lots of land around their houses. They were not able to go to the good schools that even I was able to go to. They were excluded. We were sort of a caste system, sort of an apartheid system. And they unfortunately were black. I was white, but belonging to a minority religious group. So it was all interesting. I never thought about it growing up. It was just the way things were. So that's where I grew up and how I grew up.
Thanks for sharing it, Chris. And I'm especially inspired, growing up in Georgia, and then you saw that community, African community, and so coming back a little bit back, I found your book very interesting, to be honest with you. I just read one chapter, and I'm planning to order that book. Today while I was doing some, I know enough about you, but I want to just know about more about your thought process. How you think, what are the values you care about. So coming to again to back to your story, right? So you had a good background, like your parents were good, right? You had good education, correct? And then you saw something in Guatemala, right, that inspired you to go on a path I would call less traveled path, right? Where people don't talk a lot about, like, people think that poverty, hunger, health, and sanitation, those are not the great areas people talk about. They always feel like if somebody is poor, what is what we can do about it. But you took a different route, right? You got a master's degree in nutrition, and then you started working on the causes that I would say, to me, it is noble cause, like poverty, hunger, health and sanitation, nutrition, right? So what was your inspiration, or what was your motivation? What fascinated you to work in these areas?
Well, and during the years I grew up, at one point I followed my religion very strongly,
Mhm.
and so I went to a seminary, a place to train priests, and that was very fun and very nice. But one of my brothers, who had gone to the seminary many years, told
Right.
me, "Go out and live.
Mhm.
Don't start your life early in the seminary. Go out
Mhm.
and live." So after that, after I finished high school, I
Mhm.
went to the one of the United States military academies. I went to the Air Force Academy. So
Mhm.
there's West Point for soldiers for the Army, there's Annapolis for the Navy, there's the Air Force Academy for the Air Force. And they told me many strange things at the Air Force Academy. They
Right.
told me, "We are peacekeepers of the world."
Mhm.
That sounded so good. And I said, "How do we keep peace?" And they said, "We keep peace in the world by being able to kill more people faster than anybody else can."
That sounds
If that is peace,
that ridiculous to me. Yes.
what is terrorism?
Yeah, that's right.
um,
Mhm.
this was not my idea of peace.
Right.
And then they trained us on many things. I was only there for about 3 years, but they trained us how to resist brainwashing. This was back in the days of Vietnam. And if
Mhm.
we were captured by the North Vietnamese, or if we were captured by the Viet Cong, they might try to convince us to become communists, become like them. And so they taught us how to resist brainwashing, and they taught us how brainwashing was done.
Right.
Strangely, brainwashing was done the same way that training at the Air Force Academy was
Mhm.
done.
Mhm.
You deprive people of sleep, you deprive them of food, you keep them up too long, you treat them badly, and you reward them for doing like you want them to
Right.
do.
Mhm.
And that that is how we were indoctrinated into the Air Force Academy. And then they taught us that that's what brainwashing was.
Yeah.
So after a while, I could not accept and believe what they were telling me. It was just too illogical, too against my values.
Right.
So after I got my college degrees and when I started my master's program, I
Mhm.
went to Guatemala,
Right.
south of the United States in the Americas, and worked there mostly among Native American peoples.
Right.
They are called Mayan people, and they They were the original inhabitants before us foreigners came to the Americas. And I saw that the United States sent to Guatemala and trained the Guatemalan military and the Guatemalan police to use many of the practices that the US military was using in Vietnam against the Viet Cong. And what the Guatemalan police did and the Guatemalan military did was they used those practices against the Native American population. So they used the same practices that we use to try to win against the Viet Cong. They taught the Guatemalans to use to be able to dominate the majority of their population. In Guatemala, over 55% of the population was Native American, and another large percentage was mixed. So I saw poverty, I saw lack of services, and I saw a government which, instead of serving the people, a government that oppressed the people, a government that was used to take away the resources for the people, from the people. It was used to get the people to do what I think is called debt slavery. It would get the people into, it would say, here, take from the store all of these things free right now, and not tell them that the store charged interest. And after harvest, they would let people take things for free and say, we will put that on your account. Right before harvest, when people had run out of food supplies and they had run out of money, the store would say, now pay us back everything that you owe us and 50% interest. And the farmers would say, but we can't, we did not know that this was how things were done. And so the stores would sell to uh, farm laborers the contracts, the debt of these people, would sell them into debt slavery to work as workers on large plantations in a different part of the country that the people were not used to living in, a hot part of the country. And I said to myself, I said, this is crazy. My government is involved with it, and it is against all the values that I've been taught were values we hold dear in the United States. Values of respect, values of participation, values of people having a chance. So I was very confused by all this. When I came back to the United States, I finished my nutrition degree, and then I reviewed all of the US health and nutrition projects, services anywhere in the world that our development agency did, that Peace Corps did. And I reviewed them, and then I studied public health at Johns Hopkins, and I studied not US public health, but international public health. And I studied the best ways to do public health. Once I knew enough, I went back, and my wife and I moved to Thailand, and we worked among Khmer refugees here. And it was a great opportunity to work to empower people, to give them a chance, and help them improve their lives.
Yeah, so Chris, I'm really intrigued from your experiences. So one question I mean, feel free to just not answer if you think it's too personal. you know. So here in America, right? Even I'm an immigrant and leaving a country and coming to a different country, it's a different kind of challenges. If you ask a Native American, hey, you are born in Georgia, can you go ahead and live in Colorado? They would be like, no, I schools are here good, people are here good, and it's a lot of transition, I would say. But to your experience, I was looking at it, you have traveled to 110 countries, and then you have worked in 21 countries, right? So what you felt like, what somebody, how somebody can think about working in a different country. So when you, let's say that currently you are in US, when you go to Guatemala, when you go to Thailand, culture is entirely different. So what you did differently to kind of understand people there, either in Uganda or Cambodia or in these countries, how you understood that, how you can help them, and what were the challenges? I would like to just know a little bit about it.
Well, a simple question. What is the best country in the world? The best country in the world is India, right? The the country we grow up in,
Mm-hmm.
of course, is the best country in the world.
True.
Uh, when when maps are drawn
Right.
and are published in the United States, the country in the center of the world map is the United States.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
If you go to the other side of the world,
Right.
say to Japan,
Mm-hmm.
where is the United States on the map? It is over there and
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
right.
on the edges of the map.
That's correct.
Japan is in the center of the map
That's right.
because Japan is the center of the world.
Mm-hmm.
In India, what country is the center of the world? India is the center of the world.
Right.
Everything else goes out from India, right?
Right.
Um, so one of the interesting things to learn
Mm-hmm.
is that every country you go to, they know that they are living on in the center of the world.
Right.
Um, and on a globe, if you see it from above
Right.
and you look down to where you are, of course, you're in the center of the globe.
Correct.
It's a circle around where you are.
Right.
So my point is, when you go to other countries,
Right.
you recognize that they see themselves as the center of the world, the best place in the world, the the place that um, any foreigner learns to speak their language, that any foreigner observes their culture. You don't stick with your culture. You don't stick with your language. You adapt to theirs. If someone comes to America, do we
Mm-hmm.
expect them to speak Hindu?
No.
Do we expect them to speak Chinese?
No, not at all.
Do we expect them to? No, they need to speak English,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because that is that shows respect to us.
that's
In the
right. Yeah.
same way, when I go to another country,
Mm-hmm.
I learn as much of their language, especially their greetings,
Mm-hmm.
how to say hello, how to say how are you, how to say it is an honor to meet you, how to say it has been a pleasure, how to say thank you so much, goodbye in their languages,
Exactly.
and then how to say excuse me, I don't know anymore.
Exactly.
So everywhere we go,
Mm-hmm.
if we want to work well, if we want to be accepted,
Right.
then we learn what their culture is to
Right.
the degree we can. We learn what their language is. We learn what their practices are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in America, we may do like this to say it's okay,
Right.
but in other countries, that may mean something entirely different.
That's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
we have to be aware
Yeah.
that things that we think mean something don't, you can't use the same physical ways. In America, if we want to say yes, we go like this.
Right.
In India, you go like this.
Right.
um,
Absolutely.
so we have to adapt. We have to inform ourselves. We have to watch. We have to pay attention. And that's part of the reason it's a great learning experience to go
Right.
to another country
Yes.
and to work in another country, because you have to pay such close attention to what people do, how people do things, when they do things, and your brain has to be very, very awake, very,
Exactly.
very paying attention. And you know this from
Mm.
coming to America.
Yes.
You were not in India anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so that's the same rule going anywhere. Pay attention, study up as much as you can before.
Right.
Learn as much of the language as you can before. Learn the culture, the cultural values,
Mhm.
and then pay very close attention to how people are responding and what they're doing. Just a
Exactly.
few little things.
Yes, absolutely, Chris. And that brings me to another question. I see you believe in continuous learning. Learn, learn from expert, learn from people, learn and grow. And I see a lot of degrees under your belt. So, do you still believe that the degrees which we get from college, the knowledge which we gain from books, right? The knowledge which we gain or the experiences which we gain by talking to people, that helps us in, I mean, in your role, especially when you are going on this kind of path, right? When you go to a different country and you try to make the life better, right? That requires a lot of leadership skills, correct? So how, my question is like, how you acquired that leadership skills. And if somebody wants to be a great leader, right, what are the top three skills you think they may have?
Thank you for the question. The first leadership skills that I was taught
Hmm.
were at the Air Force Academy.
Right.
And the leadership there that I was taught
Hmm.
was subjugate people, oppress people, uh, assert your dominance over people. And
I like your humor.
it
Mhm.
for me, those are not leadership skills. Those are skills of oppressive people. Uh, Leadership skills involve getting to know whom you're working with, getting to know what motivates them and what they want to accomplish,
Right.
um, getting it and building for, if you're working with a team or a group,
Hmm.
building a common identification of what the challenge is you're dealing with, or what the mission is
Hmm.
that you're working on,
Correct.
what your big vision is
Right.
for what will be success. And you help the team identify that. You facilitate, you don't dominate.
Right.
You bring people into the discussion by asking questions and listening and paying attention and
Right.
affirming as you're doing now.
Right.
And then once you do that, you say, okay, now that we've identified what we want to happen and what it looks like and how we will know if it's been accomplished, how are we going to get there? What do we have to do? You
Right.
could tell them what we have to do,
Mm-hmm.
but a good leader, I think, if you have time,
Right.
a good leader helps the people figure
Right.
out what to do. And when I was working in one country, it
Right.
finally occurred to me
Right.
to say to my staff,
Right.
if this plan
Mm-hmm.
that I have, that we have,
Right.
that I as leader have, is my baby,
Mm-hmm.
I will take care of it
Right.
because I take care of my babies.
Absolutely.
But will you take care of my baby?
That's a question.
No, they want to take care of my baby.
Right.
I need it to be their baby. If the plan is their baby, they will make sure it grows. They will make sure it develops. Will make sure if something's wrong with it, that they fix what's wrong with it. But
Right.
if it's my plan, they
Mm-hmm.
will say, that stupid farmer said
Right.
do this, and I'm going to do it because he told me, but it's a stupid plan. So
Right.
a good leader tries to make sure that the plan is everybody's plan, not
Right.
his or her plan,
Right.
that everybody knows what their role is, that
Right.
everybody knows how they will measure whether the plan is successful or not. Everybody is dedicated to improving the plan
Correct.
because one of the many things that I learned was when you first do a plan, the plan is least likely to be successful.
Correct.
Because when you first do the plan, you know the least.
Right.
Once you have started implementing it, once you have it in motion,
Right.
then you can see what works and what doesn't work. And if you're smart, you continually fix what doesn't work
Right.
and you strengthen what does work. So a plan is a plan of continual improvement.
Exactly.
It's not static. It's not fixed.
Right.
You let it, and you make sure that everyone knows this is, but among us, we're continually making this better because life is about continually making things better.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely, Chris. So few things which I learned from you about leadership is always put people first, right? And try to understand what motivates people, right? Leadership is all about, not about it is just my way or it is just highway. It is like leadership is all about working together as a team, correct? Individuals, yes, people plays an important role in leadership. It's about building a team. That was again interesting, Chris, to learn leadership, because I always learn a lot of leadership skills from you. Managing the ventures you are doing right now. It's commendable. Coming to Chris, about I love your public speaking skills, right? And nowadays I see that public speaking, right, has been regarded as one of the greatest fear people have, right? People find it very difficult to get in front of audience and talk about it. And if you can't communicate your ideas, right, how people will understand? So how did it worked out for you? Did you do anything special to learn skills, public speaking skills, and how it has helped you in your career?
Well, thank you for the question. Good question. In university, I took several public speaking courses.
So,
Then, as you know,
mhm,
even later in life,
right,
it occurred to me that I needed to further improve my public speaking skills.
correct,
That if I couldn't express myself clearly in front of other people,
Right.
how could I persuade them of anything? How could I
True.
facilitate their planning? I needed
Absolutely.
to be able to speak clearly.
Right.
So, as you know, among other things, I joined Toastmasters.
Right.
And Toastmasters, uh, when I joined,
Mm-hmm.
Toastmasters said, you can sign up for speeches and you can have a speech maybe every 6 weeks.
Right.
And I said, how in the world will I improve if I can only have a speech every 6 weeks?
Right.
So so I said, is there any opportunity to do more speeches?
Right.
And they said, well, frequently people sign up for speeches and then they aren't ready or they don't attend.
Right.
So if you have a speech ready,
Mm-hmm.
you can give the speech.
Correct.
That way I was able to give a speech almost every week in Toastmasters. And I
Absolutely.
got to, I don't know, in the 2 years or so I was in Toastmasters, I probably gave 60 speeches.
Right.
Um, and the great thing was, as you know, in Toastmasters, we have evaluators for every speech and they give
Exactly.
us feedback how the speech was.
Right.
So not only do I have my perception of how the speech went, but
Yeah.
I get feedback from others.
Yeah.
Then there were many opportunities to speak at colleges and schools and so on.
Exactly.
For those opportunities, I would frequently come to Toastmasters
Right.
and try out the speech at Toastmasters and then go to the other group and give the
Exactly.
speech that I had, the 5 minute speech I had practiced at Toastmasters.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of learning a methodology, learning an approach, practice, 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 get
Absolutely.
feedback, pay attention, and
Yeah.
improve.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris, I can see that in you. One thing which I always admire about is helping people. You are somebody who accept people they are, and you embrace different culture people. So I remember when we met together in a club, you were the one who came to me, and after that we had some great time together. All great speeches, to be honest with you. So I feel like personally, if somebody wants to learn good public speaking skills, communication skills, they can join Toastmasters. You know, I think you also think the same way. So, Chris, when I remember when we met in year 2015. So let's go back 7 years back. That time you were in college, right? And sorry to say you that I grew up in a country called India where once we are done with college, like let's say that I'm 22, right? And once I'm done with college, we think like education is over, right? So no more books, no more learnings, have a job, go to job, and get settled and have a good life, right? But your drive was to get more degrees, more degrees, right? And have a more learning, right? It takes a lot of courage to go to a college at the age of 64 or 65, and sit with people, right? And learn new language or learn new skills. So did you face any challenge there? Did your mind tell you that, hey, you are too old to learn something new? I'm sorry to ask you, but I have to ask you to just give a message to the audience that there is no age for learning.
What, dear? Uh, my wife reminds me
Haha.
that when I was young,
Right.
I thought calculus was easy to learn.
Right.
I also thought some types of engineering were relatively easy to learn.
Right.
I found in my late 60s and my early 70s my brain no longer did it. So, so
Right.
I could some things my brain was still very, very good at.
Exactly.
But some things that even though I had studied a lot
Right.
early in my life,
Right.
I took 4 semesters of calculus early in my life.
Right.
I took many semesters of statistics, semesters of biochemistry. Even though I had done that as an older person, my brain was no longer so good at learning those. I might have needed to even go back to a lower level than I could imagine going to. But otherwise, there was no problem.
Awesome.
With experience, we learn how to study, how to discipline ourselves, how to preview what we need to learn, how to review, how to study it hard. Except calculus was no longer so easy for me.
That's great. Great to hear, Chris. We came to the last part of this interview or podcast. I would say, I personally feel that I have learned many things from you. And the one thing which always resonates with me is always you have a compassion, a kind heart, to accept people and work on the causes, the noble causes. So my question to you, basically three questions, and these are a rapid fire question, I would say. So I just need one line or one word. So what is one dream of Chris that is unfulfilled right now?
Well, one dream is that everyone in the world will feel respected and valued.
Awesome. Thank you. Value and respect. What is the one destination Chris has not traveled to yet after traveling to so many country, which is on the bucket list?
Well, destination, I have not been to Sweden. I have not been to Russia. I've been to maybe 110 countries, but not those countries.
Okay. What is the one thing which Chris does for time management?
I try to get a good night's sleep, and then I try to put everything that I've got to do in my calendar when I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
And I especially try when I have something to do
Right.
to just get it done,
Exactly.
uh, to focus on it and um, not put it off, just do it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for your time. It was definitely very nice experience for me, having you here. And again, for the people who are listening from the different part of this world, I will utilize you as a good resource on some of my projects where I want to touch the life of people. So thank you once again. Thanks for your time. I really, really mean it.
It was an honor, Ajay, and I have seen how you have grown in the years since I've known you since 2015.
All right.
It's very impressive. It's great to
Thanks, Chris.
see
Thank you. You are
your
so kind.
adjustment.
Thanks to you and Connie. And I would love to see you guys sometime. So for now, it's